Guys, this is my first video. My name is Brett. Uh, my first video is going to have to be about the college football playoffs. This is my opinion. Please have your own opinion. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. But, I mean, I just don't get the playoff committee. The playoff committee can be so wrong. I agree that Alabama should be in the playoff. There is no doubt about it. I agree that Ohio State should be in the playoff. They pounded most of their opponents. They just barely hung on to the opponents where they should have just barely hung on because they played some pretty good opponents. They had a pretty light schedule as well. But they've showed leadership and they certainly deserve to be in the playoff. Clemson, however, I don't get how Clemson is in the playoff. I mean, they just barely won their game against Troy. Troy. Who's Troy? Well, Troy is like I believe they're Division 1 FBS, or they could be FCS. But Troy has never been really a powerhouse. How could they barely beat Troy yet still be considered for the playoff? They barely beat Auburn. Now you saw how Alabama just pounded Auburn into the ground. You saw exactly how that happened and how Auburn has not been very good they've had a good schedule. They played a good schedule, but they haven't played very well. They just barely survived against, well, no, they lost their game to Pittsburgh. They lost to Pittsburgh. Now, mind you, Pittsburgh is a pretty good team. Pittsburgh won against Penn State, which just won the Big Ten championship. They should replace Clemson. Excuse me. Penn State should replace Clemson. Yes. Penn State, to me, has earned the go-ahead to be in the college football championships. Semifinals. They should replace Clemson, but be ranked at number 4. Now, at number 3, Washington has definitely proved themselves. At the beginning of the season, I was kind of skeptical because Washington is in the Pac-12. And the Pac-12 is not really packed with very powerful opponents until we saw Colorado rise to power. And Colorado has definitely built back most of their program. However, they might lose some seniors next year, and they will definitely have to reiterate their offense and some of their defense. But definitely Washington should be ranked number 3. So for me, I have at number 1 Alabama, number 2 Ohio State, number 3 Washington, and number 4 Penn State. There will be 2 Big Ten teams in this year's college football playoffs. Now that's my projection. The college football playoff committee will probably have a different projection, knowing how they pick teams based on how they have proved themselves, which I don't get. Winning is winning still, but you have to think about it. How good are these teams? How are they going to pit up to teams such as Alabama and teams such as a team that has basically pounded their opponent time after time after time? Such Ohio State, I'm not sure. Washington, I'm not sure. Clemson, definitely no. Clemson will lose. I'm sorry, Clemson fans, but I respect your team, but it's just not viable that Clemson should be in the college football playoff. Now, I'm a Nebraska fan. I can say that I'm a Nebraska fan. I was hoping that they would make the college football playoff, but they do not deserve it at all. Penn State deserves it. They deserve it plenty. Their players they've come off of injured. The beginning of the season Some of them were injured, and they got healthy over the season. And what we saw in them was just pure talent and pure heart that they played. And they came back, you got to think about it, they came back from a sexual, I believe, excuse me if I get this wrong, sexual harassment scandal or sexual, you can make a meme about this in the comments, a sexual scandal. Sex scandal, that's what I'm looking for. And they got a new coach, and they got new assistant. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say assistant coaches because I don't know. But they've come back from a lot. And I think that they deserve the go-ahead. And I think those are my 4 teams.